Ritsuki Katayama finally gets that university acceptance letter, marking the start of his long-awaited campus life. But the dream ends instantly when a truck slams into him. Total lights out on his current life, and just like that, it is instant death. Ritsuki realizes his old life was absolute garbage, and as he dies, the screen shatters on his phone. Then he wakes up in a crib as a baby. He has been reborn as Ian, the son of a poor peasant family. His new life is predictably rough, and his family is struggling to scrape by in the empire. While the adults work, Ian and his sister hunt for food in the woods. Local kids start mocking him for his black hair, but he does not care since he never asked to be born this way. He's sick of living in poverty during the Middle Ages until his vision starts acting up. A mysterious status window finally pops up in front of him, and it starts to display a message saying that he is officially, quote, nobody. Ian cannot help but curse at the sheer disrespect. It's not like having a system window would change anything. He's trapped in a cycle of endless labor and debt. Inheriting this miserable life from his parents feels like a curse. Farming is the only future he's ever known, so he does not dream. Learning new skills is completely out of the question for him, but then he imagines a life as a hero or a scholar, or maybe an artist if he could just get the education. Even alchemy would be a massive upgrade from his current situation. Reality hits hard while he's roasting a meager fish over a fire. His little sister watches him, oblivious to the weight on his mind. She cheerfully hands him a piece of her meal and he plays along. It's time for a dessert break in the woods, so they head out. A patch of wild berries provides the perfect snack for the day. He keeps a close eye on his sister while they forage together. She happily munches on the fruit, totally content with the simple life. Watching her grow up like this makes him feel like time is flying. Suddenly, his focus snaps to something moving in the brush nearby. A massive silhouette emerges from the trees with a heavy crash. The sheer size of the beast leaves them both frozen in place. It is not just an animal, it's something far more dangerous. A massive bear charges the kid and his companion, but the beast does not even make it close. A sudden flash of lightning obliterates the monster instantly, crackling with pure, raw magical energy. The creature collapses right in front of them, leaving the boy completely stunned by what he just witnessed. Someone new has just stepped onto the scene, casually brushing off the overwhelming display of power. A mysterious woman looms over them, asking if this is the Feldenberg territory. The boy is still processing how she took down that bear. As she introduces herself as Eredes, a wandering mage. Hearing that she is a mage really shakes the kid, because people like that are basically walking nukes, capable of erasing entire battlefields with their magic. He's wondering why a powerhouse like her is in their backwater town, but Eredes cuts to the chase looking for a specific black-haired boy. When she asks if there are any others, the kid confirms it is just him, and she smiles, clearly satisfied that she's found her target. Realizing he is the one she is after, the boy is completely blindsided. A mysterious hooded figure is hunting for a black-haired boy in the Feldenberg territory. The trail leads straight to a lady mage who gets a strange, cryptic prompt. She spots the kid, a young farm boy, and decides he's the perfect candidate for an apprentice. She's clearly a high-level Spacetime mage, and she's already laughing at how this is going to play out. Ian is super intimidated, having heard stories about how weird and eccentric all mages are, but he just saw her delete a massive bear with a single insane blast of magic. Still trying to wrap his head around that display, Ian works up the courage to speak. He asks her about the spell, totally stunned by the raw power she just unleashed. The lady mage just chuckles, clearly amused by the kid's newfound obsession with her craft. She brushes off the feat like it's nothing, telling him anyone can do it with practice. Ian is floored by the idea that someone like him could actually master magic. He stammers out the big question, could he actually learn to do that too? She does not hesitate, promising him that with the right teacher anything is possible. A vision of power sparks in his mind as she offers to show him the ropes. She extends an invitation to become her apprentice, giving him a way out of his current life. The offer hits him hard, a total life changer just waiting for him to reach out. Ian realizes this is his golden ticket, the one chance he has to completely rewrite his future. This is his shot to finally ditch the farm and step into a world of magic. He takes her hand, and just like that, the apprenticeship begins. A new chapter kicks off at her cliffside workshop, far away from the fields he once knew. Ian kicks off his training to master magic by diving straight into the ancient books. The foundation of all spells rests on the complex Maronius language. With his parents and the local lord finally giving the green light, he commits to giving this his absolute best effort. The study session starts immediately under the watchful eye of his mentor. Progress starts at a crawl, but Ian keeps grinding away. Rote memorization of cryptic syllables fills his days, and the stack of textbooks on his desk only seems to grow higher. He pushes through the burnout, until the system confirms he's finally mastered the Archmage's tongue. 7 years of intense study pass in the blink of an eye. The mentor declares his classroom days over, so Ian prepares himself for the next phase of his training. His stats have officially updated to reflect his new status as a magic novice. Before he can even react, the scenery shifts entirely. He's suddenly sent plummeting from the sky, while his teacher remains calmly on the ground watching him struggle. Ian screams that he only spent those 6 years learning a language, but she just watches him fall from a distance, telling him to focus and listen to the voice of the magic itself. Ian is totally caught off guard by a mysterious voice. The kid is literally falling through the sky just hearing the wind, then some kind of spirits start buzzing around, surprised to find a human. Ian realizes he can actually understand the language these things are speaking. The system immediately pings to confirm his new wind magic skill. He's trying to grasp the mysteries of nature and how this all works, but his mentor just laughs at him, telling him he looks ridiculous struggling like that. A hooded figure shows him how to channel energy by talking to nature. She explains that this connection is what magic actually is. Ian finally starts to get the hang of it, absorbing the lesson. Now that he can hear the wind, his mentor pushes for the next one. The kid is fully locked in and ready to keep practicing. She immediately snaps her fingers to start their lesson on water magic. Ian ends up trapped inside a swirling water vortex, struggling for air. Without missing a beat, she points and jumps straight into ice magic. The poor guy is literally freezing inside a wooden barrel now. Exhausted, Ian collapses, but his mentor admits his progress is honestly insane. She does not even let him breathe before snapping her fingers again. A massive pillar of fire erupts right in front of him. Ian is absolutely terrified, scrambling away from the heat like a panicked student. A mysterious, burning voice echoes from the flames, debating whether to char the intruder alive. Ian is absolutely losing it, screaming for help while the heat closes in around him. The kid stands in the cavern, wondering if he's finally grasped the basics of earth magic. Cryptic whispers about flow and movement fill the air, sounding like some ancient, high-level riddle. Baffled by the cryptic message, Ian just stands there, confused as hell by the cosmic gibberish. He starts to doubt his own talent, wondering if he just lacks the aptitude for earth. But then a crackle of energy sparks nearby, suggesting he might just need more field experience. A system window pops up out of nowhere, offering him bonus skill points to dump into proficiency. Realizing he's basically playing this world with cheat codes, he starts grinning like a total gamer. He decides to power up his earth magic, but the text is still totally unreadable. With a flick of his finger, he channels his energy and the cave reacts instantly. An ancient voice booms out from the lava flows, calling him a tiny, insignificant human. It warns him that the lava will erupt if he triggers an earthquake, schooling him on earth magic. Taking the hint, Ian decides to scramble out and report this discovery to his master immediately. But then he pauses, his voice going cold as he commands the very fire to burn. The torch in his hand flares up, responding perfectly to his sudden newfound authority. A dark presence recoils, shrieking in absolute hatred as the sudden light hits the cave. Ian freezes, sensing something else is lurking in the shadows, asking if it's the earth itself. The darkness answers back, revealing that it is not the earth, but the darkness itself staring him down. Night falls over the scene, the bright moon hanging silent as the confrontation takes a turn. Sitting alone in the dark, the master plans to attend the next Fire Sorcerer conference. Ian comes rushing in, and he is clearly excited about some major news he is carrying. Seeing the kid run up, she confirms he actually pulled off the task. Ian beams with pride, revealing he even managed to pick up shadow magic from the dark. That news stops her dead in her tracks, eyes wide in absolute shock. Standing tall, the kid asks if she's really going to believe that nonsense. She stares back, trying to process if he's actually claiming to have conversed with darkness. Ian checks in on his master, wondering if she's doing all right after that confession. The master finally speaks, calling him by name and confirming it's time to move. She decides that they need to head down the mountain right away. Ian asks where they are heading, but she clarifies they are not going together. It is time for them to finally part ways here. Pointing the way, she orders the kid to go to Chronolec for the Spacetime Mage conference. If he truly has the potential for Spacetime magic, he should be able to find a mentor there. Ian looks completely lost, wondering why the sudden pivot to Spacetime magic. She just gives him a friendly pat on the head, brushing off his confusion. In her mind, she knows the kid has an innate affinity for these kinds of mysteries. She's betting on him being able to handle the power of time, too. With that expectation set, she starts to fade away into the night air. She waves goodbye, telling Ian they will meet again in Dranheim in 3 years. Ian sets off for the north, searching for cheap travel options to reach the Spacetime Mage conference. He quickly finds a merchant group headed in that direction, looking for a way to tag along. The kid catches up with the group, still processing the sudden change in plans. Honestly, she's become impossible to predict, but he has to roll with the punches. A merchant calls out for anyone needing to head north, and Ian does not hesitate. Since the conference is in the north, he might as well get a head start. Night falls, and the young traveler joins the merchant's camp for a bit of rest. He sits by the fire, keeping to himself as he eats his meal. Reek, the leader of the Rabbit Foot Merchant Guild, strikes up a conversation with the newcomer. The merchant asks if he knows about the dangerous Dragon Mountain nearby. That place is legendary for being the territory of a real terrifying drake. Anyone wandering into that mountain is basically asking to get fried by a dragon. Reek gets uncomfortably chummy, grilling him on his combat skills and speed. The merchant gets frustrated when Ian admits he's not exactly a warrior. Admitting he is a mage makes the guy pause for a second. The whole camp goes dead silent after hearing he is a magic user. Even the mysterious hooded traveler nearby stops what they are doing to look over. The stranger's eyes sharpen, clearly intrigued by the revelation. The nearby guards are completely stunned, unable to believe a mage is tagging along. Ian just stands there, wondering why everyone is suddenly acting so weird. The old man keeps trying to shove more food at Ian, but he's not having it. A group of mercenaries nearby are busy whispering and laughing at the duo. Ian overhears them mocking him, questioning if he's actually some kind of powerful mage. They think he looks way too wimpy to be anything special, and they are finding the whole idea hilarious. According to them, even a stray dog has more presence than he does. The mysterious girl watching him tells Ian that he really needs to address this. She thinks he should give them a piece of his mind to get them to pipe down. Ian is not so sure about that, but she reminds him that these mercenaries will always push around anyone who seems soft. Apparently, showing off a little raw power is the only way to earn their respect. She guarantees that if he puts on a show, they'll actually jump to his defense whenever trouble starts. It's a bit of a leap, but Ian starts considering the advice. He's never really been one to fly off the handle and start a fight, though. While he's sitting there contemplating, one of the mercenaries nearby starts acting real bold. The guy actually spits right into Ian's food bowl. Ian freezes, totally shocked that someone would have the nerve to do that to his meal. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking and the mercenary looks around, confused by the sudden tremor. Ian stands up, his eyes locked on the guy who just ruined his dinner. He looms over the mercenary, demanding to know exactly why the hell he decided to spit on his plate. The guy turns pale, realizing he just messed with the wrong person. He drops to his knees, begging the Lord Mage for forgiveness. The argument starts over something as simple as cleaning a plate. Our guy is losing his mind because the other dude did not use water. But the peasant is genuinely confused, thinking water is actually dirty. The protagonist cannot believe what he is hearing right now. Apparently the local water is just full of mud and parasites, and then he drops the bombshell that human saliva is somehow more hygienic. It is a bleak, dark world where basic sanitation does not even exist. The soldiers are just as stunned by this absolute lack of logic. The mage is officially done with these backwards medieval standards. He starts chanting something intense while the air grows heavy. A massive magical fire erupts right in the middle of camp. This blaze is way too big for a normal campfire. The soldiers are backing away in total shock and confusion. Kathy watches the display with wide, nervous eyes. The mage snaps and tells them to go draw some water immediately. He's absolutely livid at these filthy, unwashed fools. The camp is quiet for a moment as the group splits up. A pack of soldiers is already out hunting for Kathy. One of them finds her by the river and starts plotting his move. They finally corner the poor girl and surround her in the dark. The soldiers try to sweet-talk their target into the dark. But the masked man is not playing their games tonight. He grabs the girl and makes his move in a heartbeat, and the goons are left scrambling as their prey vanishes. One of the soldiers drops instantly from a lethal shot. And the rest of the crew screams for vengeance. They charge forward blindly while the rescuer retreats. Unimpressed by these low-level goons, he keeps moving. The girl is clearly terrified by the sudden chaos, and she barely has a moment to catch her breath. They slip away into the heavy, pouring rain, while the soldiers stay hot on their trail, forcing the duo to keep running for their lives. Back at camp, the protagonist drifts off into a deep sleep, muttering nonsense about his personal space as he dozes, until a sudden magical alert jolts him wide awake. Something is closing in fast and he knows it. The mage calls out in a total panic, confirming that the situation has gone completely south, and the full moon watches over the incoming threat. And in the chaos, a lethal counterattack takes down the pursuers. One clean strike finishes the job, leaving the enemies in ruins. Someone ruthless is calling the shots, demanding they kill anyone in their way. Their only objective is to hunt down the woman at all costs. Meanwhile, the target is hiding nearby, barely holding it together in the brush. Trapped and desperate, she realizes there is absolutely nowhere left to run. The blade finds her before she can even make a move. A familiar face appears, looming over her with a cold, sharp edge. He demands she get up immediately or he'll start carving pieces off. With her hope fading, she assumes this is the end of the line. The guy raises his sword for the killing blow but then stops cold. Realization hits him hard and his focus shifts in an instant. A massive surge of power suddenly erupts, throwing everyone back. Standing between the girl and her attacker, a new player enters the fray. The newcomer offers a hand, signaling it is time to get out of there. He tells the girl to stick close, looking more like a savior than a threat. She follows his lead, regrouping with a team that was waiting in the shadows. The squad confirms they are locked and loaded, ready to back their leader up. Turning back to the fight, he prepares to unleash something truly devastating. He starts the incantation, calling out to the shadows to finish this. The mage summons a massive surge of electricity to light up the dark forest. His pursuers scramble to light their torches, desperate to counter the sudden drop in visibility. Confusion breaks out among the group as they struggle to find their bearings in the gloom. Rushing forward, the mage leads his escort deeper into the woods to escape their attackers. A system notification confirms that his shadow art skill is now actively providing perfect night vision. The enemies spot them and start closing in, their torches flickering as they call out warnings. One of the pursuers lunges forward with his blade drawn, intending to cut off their escape. But before they can reach him, the mage unleashes a torrent of fire to stop them cold. The flames roar to life, forcing the attackers to halt as they realize they are outmatched. Watching the chaos, the kid hopes this display of magic is enough to scare them off. Instead of retreating, the leader rallies his men to charge, intent on taking down the mage. Suddenly, a massive glowing creature emerges from the shadows, dwarfing the soldiers in its path. Screams echo through the trees as the beast strikes, instantly taking one of the men down. The remaining pursuers freeze, realizing they've stumbled into something far deadlier than a mere mage. Terror takes hold of them as they watch the monster tear through their ranks. Stunned by the scale of the threat, the mage realizes they are not facing a simple animal. It is a full-grown drake, and it is already locked onto its next target with lethal intent. The beast looms over the soldiers, its jaws dripping as it prepares to finish the job. Panic hits a breaking point as the survivors scramble, realizing they are now the prey. Even the mage is left speechless, watching in horror as the true apex predator reveals itself. The mage knows they're cooked as the massive drake stares them down in the darkness. But the system interrupts, announcing he's just witnessed a primeval mystery for the first time. New skill pops up, granting him the power to communicate with and summon mysterious lifeforms. He can't believe his luck, realizing even this dangerous drake is now within his reach. Memories of past encounters flood back, suggesting this new ability links to the mysteries he's seen before. Gripping his book, he decides it's time to take a massive gamble on this wild theory. He turns toward the beast and calls out to the drake, hoping for a miracle. The rest of the party is absolutely terrified, watching in shock as he steps right up. The drake growls, towering over him, but he stands his ground to test his new power. Taking a deep breath, he channels his energy, determined to make this desperate plan work. He slams a hand to his chest, ready to introduce himself to the apex predator. Pointing at himself, he shouts that they are actually going to be friends. He even holds up a sign to keep things simple, strictly forbidding any bullying or fighting. The drake narrows its eyes, clearly confused by the weird human talking down to it. His companions watch from behind, wondering what the hell he's saying to that monster. He waits for a reaction, but the language barrier seems to be a real problem. Panicking internally, he realizes he needs to upgrade his communication skills if he wants to survive. The system confirms he needs to spend points to level up the skill immediately. He does not hesitate to dump all his available points into the summoning arts. His proficiency surges and the system confirms the ability has successfully leveled up. The hero picks up a strange, ominous sound nearby. He calls out to the massive dragon standing right in their path. The beast lets out a deafening roar that rattles everyone to their core. That display of raw power is clearly doing the job. He keeps his cool and tries to reason with the creature, explaining that he is not looking for a death match today. The dragon scoffs at the idea of a human fighting it, calling the notion absurd. Everyone else is stunned that the monster is actually using telepathy. A tense silence hangs in the air while they wait for a response. The beast makes it clear that they are not even worth the effort of killing. Our lead realizes his plan to communicate is actually gaining traction. But his confidence slips when the dragon's mood takes a sharp turn. The massive creature snaps, making it obvious that patience is running thin. His companions are terrified, practically begging for their lives at this point. The protagonist is stuck, desperately searching for a way out of this trap. Since the dragon is basically telling them to get lost, he decides a frontal assault is the only option left. He addresses the dragon directly, trying to command the situation. The beast mocks him, questioning why it should bother talking to a human at all. Still, the dragon listens as the hero offers his assistance. Calling the human arrogant, the beast looms over them, ready to end this conversation. With a low growl, the mage stands his ground against the massive drake. Everyone else in the party is losing their minds in pure terror. The beast pauses, its interest piqued by the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Ian steps forward, channeling his mana to command the space around him. This display of power catches the creature off guard, sparking a flicker of curiosity. He plays the part of a humble mage, offering his services to the drake. That massive head dips slightly, weighing the unexpected proposal. A silent understanding passes between them and the negotiations officially begin. The lethal pressure radiating from the beast finally dissipates into the night air. Safe for now, Ian takes a breath and prepares to show what he's truly capable of. Survival is not the problem, but he's not about to be played like a fool. Deep in thought, he considers how to flip the power dynamic in his favor. Recalling a crucial lesson, the memory of his mentor floods back in. She taught him that magic is a conversation, not just a blunt tool. Relationships with the mystical forces are what separate masters from mere apprentices. Every entity has its own personality, and a mage must learn to speak their language. Now he's ready to manipulate the situation and reel the drake in. Summoning his skill window, Ian prepares to deploy a specific technique. A rare scroll appears detailing expert summoning methods written by Demonite. He's found the perfect leverage to pull off his next move. To gain the drake's favor, our guy needs to execute a very specific plan. The system recommends serving top-tier alcohol scaled to the size of the beast. He gulps, realizing the sheer scale of the task ahead of him. His strategy is simple, just suck up to the massive creature however he can. The kid is completely lost on how to deal with this monster. While the drake is left wondering what exactly a loner is supposed to be, he figures if he plays his cards right, he might trigger a breakthrough. The beast looms over him, demanding to know what this offering is. Offering a gift, he nervously asks for permission to present it. Permission is granted, with the drake expecting something impressive. Catching the scent of the booze, the kid panics and barks an order. He screams at his crew to fetch the strongest liquor they have in the wagon. A crate is quickly opened to reveal the stash. The drake is clearly unimpressed by the meager-looking offering. Trying to save face, the kid argues that quality is about rarity, not quantity. He pours the liquid into a mug, hoping it does the trick. Handing the drink over, he tries to play it cool. The drake sniffs the strange brew, clearly suspicious of the smell. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as the beast demands to know if he is plotting something. Terrified, he laughs it off and prepares to take a drink himself to prove it is safe. Our hero downs the drink, proving to the terrified onlookers that it's perfectly safe. Those guys are still watching from the sidelines, looking absolutely shocked by his confidence. He keeps pushing the booze, admitting that the stuff is actually incredibly strong for him. The dragon inspects the mug, clearly intrigued by the pungent smell coming from the drink. After being urged to try it, the beast leans in to take a long look. Carefully lifting the tiny mug, the dragon prepares to sample the human concoction. One sip is all it takes for the massive creature to realize something is different. The nervous pair keeps watching, frozen in place as they wait for the dragon's reaction. Down it goes, and just like that, the beast is officially hooked on the flavor. When asked for a verdict, the dragon admits the taste is not exactly gourmet cooking. But despite the flavor, the creature confesses that the drink is strangely addictive. Eager for more, the hero hands over a fresh bottle to keep the party going. The dragon gulps it down, genuinely surprised by the kick of the human alcohol. Wiping away sweat, our protagonist realizes he's stuck playing bartender to this massive beast. 7 barrels later, he's stunned to find the dragon is not even close to passing out. It turns out this guy is a total heavyweight, and our hero cannot help but be impressed. So much for that quick escape plan, especially since the booze supply is running dry. The dragon suddenly gets serious, bringing up that question about why he was so moody earlier. Admitting he's ready to talk, the beast finally opens up about his bad mood. Our hero just watches, wondering why this giant lizard is suddenly getting all sentimental. The drake laments that its nest is cramped compared to all the others. Even though it was a tight fit, the drake's girlfriend supposedly found it relaxing. Our hero is stunned, questioning if he really just heard a dragon talk about a breakup. It turns out the drake ended things because people started mocking his girl for being with him. Hearing how she suffered for his sake makes the poor guy feel incredibly guilty. The dragon is sobbing his heart out over the sacrifice he made for her. And just like that, the beast lets out a massive, earth-shaking roar of misery. His companions wake up in a total panic, completely confused by the sudden noise. The drake just continues to wail, clearly not over his lost love anytime soon. The three guys are left totally drained, basically having their souls sucked out by the drama. Our protagonist realizes the dragon's feelings are just as complex and human as anyone else's. A light bulb goes off as he considers how to use this emotional mess to his advantage. He approaches the beast, finally getting its attention with a call. Offering a deal, the kid promises to use his magic to renovate that cramped nest. The dragon is caught off guard by the generous proposal and freezes up. But our guy makes it clear there's a catch to this magical favor. He asks for a single request in return for the home improvement services. The morning light breaks over the landscape, marking a brand new day. Back in the present, the kid seems to be deep in thought about his next move. Meanwhile, the old man is busy having a sentimental moment of his own. A little head pat from his travel companion catches the old man totally off guard. But before he can get too comfortable, a sharp threat to remove his fingers snaps him back to reality. Ian looms over the group, his presence radiating an intensity that leaves everyone else trembling. The sheer pressure of his gaze is enough to send the poor guy tumbling to the ground. And everyone else follows suit, losing their footing in the chaos of his sudden arrival. While the group tries to recover from the shock, Ian just stands there, clearly done with their nonsense. With everyone back on their feet, the mage realizes they all passed out back there. Someone asks if the massive drake finally went back to its nest, but Ian has bad news. The beast is still lurking nearby, and the thought of it coming back to snack on them is terrifying. Ian clarifies that the creature is waiting for him specifically because they made a deal. The mage explains that he promised to fix the dragon's nest if it let them all go. His companions look at him with pure awe, completely misunderstanding his act of self-preservation as some heroic sacrifice. Ian just wants to get the job done, but the local fan club is already starting to form. They start cheering for the great mage, treating him like a local celebrity. Ian has no idea what's happening as the group starts hyping him up for his deal. It turns into a whole production with songs and cheers about defeating the roaring drake. The guys keep egging him on to scold the dragon like he's training a puppy. And to his annoyance, he actually has to follow through, making the dragon submit right in front of them. The group is absolutely losing it, crying tears of joy because their mage is just that cool. They swear their eternal loyalty to him, leaving Ian standing there, completely lost as to how this even happened. Ian tells the group to get ready to move before he returns. The guys assure him they are totally in sync, but he's clearly exhausted. A mysterious woman suddenly steps up to talk about mercenary counts. Her eyes glow with an intense, otherworldly light. She makes a quick exit, leaving the scene behind. Down in a dark cave, a voice claims this place as a personal nest. Ian finds himself face to face with a massive dragon. The beast is not happy about his hesitation, insisting there is no turning back now. He's completely drained, his HP bar low, and speaking this language is wearing him thin. Just wanting to get this over with, he decides to reshape the cave walls. He closes his eyes, focusing his power to manipulate the terrain, a direct call to the earth itself to shift and change. The dragon interrupts, clearly annoyed by his return. Asking for a favor, he gets shut down immediately because she is too busy. He realizes he's really getting on her nerves. Back outside, the dragon asks how the negotiation went. He admits the Earth refused to talk, so he'll just try again later. The dragon basically says if the Earth does not want to play, that is on him. He takes the rejection in stride, still looking a bit dazed. Even the dragon sympathizes, joking that the Earth just is not his soulmate. Ian Eredes finally meets the dragon that's been lurking in the shadows. After exchanging names, the massive drake introduces himself as Longtel. He's surprisingly friendly, immediately offering a hand in friendship to the mage. A quick handshake cements the bond between the two unlikely allies. It's a done deal, and the system confirms the change. A new skill pops up, unlocking the ability to summon Longtel at will. Ian is stoked about the skill, but he's still worried about his limitations. The dragon notices the kid's hesitation and decides to step in. Longtail offers a massive pile of treasure as a celebratory gift. It's a literal mountain of jewels and loot just sitting there. Staring at the hoard, Ian realizes he's found his loophole. The kid eyes a specific glowing gem that might just solve his problem. He asks his new buddy if it's cool to do a little groundwork. Longtail is confused by the request but does not stop him. Ian gets to work drawing a massive magic circle on the cave floor. He hits a snag when he forgets the exact technique his master taught him. A system hint reminds him that a gift is the key to the circle. Longtail watches curiously as the kid preps for his experiment. Ian channels his power, calling out to the earth itself. With a command to reshape the environment, the rocks shift to his will. A massive dragon wakes up in its nest, realizing something is different. The sanctuary has been transformed into a perfect habitat for the beast. Ian stands by, absolutely thrilled to see his dragon friend move to tears. The space is huge and smells divine, making the dragon feel right at home. When asked if this scent is some kind of magic, Ian just shakes his head. The dragon seals the deal with a fist bump to thank its favorite human. It's a total lovey-dovey scene with the dragon's partner, but Ian is just overwhelmed. Things take a sharp turn when Ian suddenly freezes up, his face pale. A strange, heavy silence fills the air as Ian stops dead in his tracks. The dragon notices something is wrong and Ian clutches his head in pain. Something inside him is snapping and it's clearly not part of the plan. Panic hits the dragon when it spots blood dripping from Ian's hand. The kid collapses, completely out of it, and the dragon lets out a desperate cry. Scooping him up, the beast pleads for his friend to hang in there. Ian is barely conscious and struggling to even think straight right now. A sharp voice echoes through the cavern, demanding a mage immediately. A mysterious woman rushes into the chamber, her eyes locked on the scene. She halts in her tracks, staring up at the massive, protective beast. The dragon grips the unconscious mage tightly, keeping him safe from harm. Tensions skyrocket as the dragon glares down at the intruder, ready for a fight. A panicked girl tries to talk her way out of being eaten by a dragon, waving her hands while claiming to be friends with Ian, and signaling a big okay to show she means no harm. The dragon stares back, genuinely confused by her sudden offer of friendship. It lets out a sigh, clearly unimpressed. While Ian wakes up in a daze nearby, still groggy, he struggles to even open his eyes. His hand reaches out, fumbling blindly for his phone, but his fingers brush against something soft and squishy instead. The texture is all wrong, making him wonder if he's dreaming. It's squishy like a cat's paw, and then a voice snaps him fully awake. Kathy is sitting right there, watching him touch her hand. He jumps back, completely caught off guard by her presence. Dazed, he wonders if he's still in some bizarre dream, but she tells him to stay down and rest. And the memory of passing out finally hits him. He pushed his summoning level too far trying to chat with the dragon, and now Kathy is staring at him with a look of pure confusion. Realizing she saw everything, he dies of embarrassment and hides his face. Ian wonders where Drake ran off to, but he clearly did not stick around. The guy is distracted by his own weird daydreams while trying to play it cool. Things are still awkward between Ian and the mysterious girl who tagged along. He probes for answers on how she managed to survive getting through the dungeon alone. When she mentions them being friends, Ian is genuinely confused about how she knows him. He's barely awake and just wants to know if she's using some weird translation hack. She drops the act and admits she walked into this death trap with her eyes open. Before Ian can process that, she starts spiraling and needs to get something off her chest. The attack from the previous night is clearly still haunting her. She blames herself for everything that went down, and Ian is not buying the guilt trip. Breaking down, she apologizes for the mess she has dragged him into. The mood shifts instantly and Ian can feel the weight of her secret. He calls her out on the non-stop shaking and tries to get to the root. Taking a deep breath, she prepares to drop the bombshell. Ian jokes about her being a bandit leader, but she's not laughing at the cliché. He does not even deny the joke, but the tension is getting real. She finally drops the biggest lie of all: she is not who she says she is. Ian is floored when she claims to be a literal princess of the country. Dropping the act, she reveals her true identity as Lucy of the noble Tarian family. The kicker: those bandits were actually sent by her own fiancé to kidnap her. She's not just playing around, she's clearly terrified and desperate to get away. The plan was simple: get far enough away that he could never track her down. But after what went down yesterday, she's completely lost the nerve to make a run for it. So she grabs onto Ian, begging him for help with everything she's got. He's caught off guard by the sudden plea, trying to make sense of the situation. He needs to know why she's bolting and if the guy she's betrothed to is actually dangerous. She explains that the Tarian barony is in a bad spot, struggling to hold onto their land. With no knights to protect their borders, they were basically sitting ducks for any enemy attack. Things were looking so grim that the entire family was on the verge of total collapse. That's when they forced her into a marriage with a high-ranking mercenary captain. He was the leader of the strongest group around, and his presence kept the raiders away. For a while, he actually played the part of the devoted husband at high society events. Back then, he seemed perfectly content just being the son-in-law to a noble house. She honestly thought that maybe, just maybe, things would turn out okay. But the second he secured his position, the mask slipped and his true colors came out. The guy started living it up with a harem, treating her like she was just some idiot. Her parents finally realized how toxic it was and tried to call the whole thing off. It was a huge mistake because he did not take the rejection lightly. She finally breaks down and admits the truth. He straight up poisoned her parents to death. Ian is left completely stunned, struggling to process that level of cold-blooded betrayal. She explains how her fiancé poisoned her parents just to hold on to his power. Ian realizes the gravity of the situation and the sheer cruelty involved in this plot. A total scumbag move for an engagement, and Ian is clearly disgusted by the guy. She notes that even with his sword skills without this marriage, he remains a commoner. The Tarian family fortune is off-limits to him unless he secures this union by force. That is why she fled with a servant's help, avoiding a man she would rather die than marry. Her captor will stop at nothing to drag her back, so she begs Ian for his protection. Ian acknowledges the mess, especially considering the cold-blooded murder behind the power grab. The shadow of her fiancé looms over her, making the threat feel immediate and real. Medieval power dynamics are a headache, but Ian can't just turn a blind eye here. She promises him a grand reward on the honor of her family name if he helps. Ian does not miss a beat, asking why he should help and what happens if he betrays her. She scoffs that her fiancé is such a cheapskate, he would hardly pay a bounty for her. Leaning in, she offers him everything she has instead. Ian is taken aback by the scope of her offer, wondering if she really means it. She confirms it, even offering the entire Tarian family to him if he desires it. A path to becoming a noble and potentially marrying into her house opens up before him. For a farmer's son, this is an incredible, life-changing opportunity. But Ian is a mage in this fantasy world, and his true goal is mastering his craft. Helping her is just a means to gain experience and travel money, so he agrees to drive off the pursuers. She tries to explain the situation, but the words are barely coming out. Ian brushes it off, telling her a mage is not much use in a sword fight. The girl breaks down into tears, desperate and clearly at her limit. Watching her panic, Ian reconsiders his stance on staying out of this mess. He agrees to help her escape, even if he's doing it purely for the coin. The catch is that everything after the escape is entirely her problem. His bluntness catches her off guard, leaving her sobbing right in front of him. Realizing he might have overstepped, he reaches out to comfort the girl. A simple gesture of kindness breaks through the tension between them. She thanks him through her tears, finally feeling a sense of relief. The emotional weight of the moment leads to a sudden, awkward embrace. He stands there, completely unsure of how to handle this unexpected reaction. They sit together for a moment, waiting for her to settle down. Suddenly, a lounging dragon interrupts the scene, looking way too relaxed. With a casual flick of its claw, the dragon checks in on his friend. Seeing Ian and the girl, the creature greets them with a grin. The dragon checks on Ian, who insists he's doing just fine. Time is running out, so they need to get off the mountain fast. The girl hands over a gift, but Ian downplays it as nothing special. The dragon crouches down, offering them a lift to speed things up. Ian thanks the dragon for the ride and invites his companion to join. She hesitates, clearly feeling out of her element with the massive beast. The dragon insists she get on board, leaving her totally stunned. Ian clarifies to the creature that it's not like that, but the dragon remains unconvinced. She has no idea what they are even arguing about. Ian reaches out to offer her a hand anyway. With a grin, he tells her to just get on the back. They clasp hands firmly to make the move. Once everyone is settled, they finally take off. The beast stomps through the forest, leaving the scene behind. They head out into the bright sky. Meanwhile, the remaining mercenaries discuss their dire situation after the recent slaughter. One of them is convinced that lurking bandits will finish them off next. Another questions if bandits would really be wandering around the woods so aimlessly. They argue over whether they should stay put or run, citing duty. Lord Reek cuts through the tension by demanding attention. He finally breaks his silence to address the group. His sharp gaze locks onto them, silencing the room instantly. Reek orders everyone to stay put and wait for the mage. The men are shocked by the order, but ultimately agree to follow the guild master's lead. The group is still convinced their ally is just running late and could not possibly be dead. But 10 minutes later, they're face down in the dirt after getting jumped by bandits. The bandit leader is not having any of their whining and shuts them up with a heavy hand. He pulls his blade, demanding they pay up if they want to keep their heads. Instead of gold, he demands they hand over a specific girl he's been hunting. The pressure is on as he describes her dark bluish hair and warns them not to lie. Realizing who he is talking about, the group recognizes the target is Kathy, but they quickly realize she's not even around to be handed over. The bandit leader demands they find her immediately, but they are clearly stumped. Since Kathy is nowhere to be found, they have no idea how to answer him. The leader draws his sword, clearly tired of their useless excuses. They beg for their lives, crying out for the Lord Mage to save them. The bandit leader pauses as he notices something approaching from the distance. It turns out the mage is coming back and he's not alone. The bandit leader is stunned to see a creature coming toward them. A massive beast charges into the clearing at full speed. The mage is riding on its back with Kathy sitting safely behind him. The bandits can't believe their eyes as they spot their target riding the monster. They're completely frozen in shock by the sight of her mount. Terror hits them as they realize they're staring down a literal drake. Panic ripples through the group as they realize a massive threat is closing in. The older man screams for everyone to run, triggering an immediate and desperate retreat. Amidst the chaos, relief washes over them that Kathy managed to escape the encounter. Someone notes how lucky she was to have a mage nearby, otherwise things would have ended badly. Confusion lingers about how their pursuers even knew who she was, despite their recent arrival. The mention of the Heavenly God Church hangs heavy in the air between them. Ian recognizes the name, noting he has not heard it in a long time. The church is supposed to be a sacred institution, yet it's become corrupted by greedy traffickers. Even after witnessing Ian's magic and a literal dragon, these fanatics are still hunting for Lucy. Persistent hunters keep pushing forward, making Ian wonder if they're truly that desperate to drag her away. The situation is spiraling, and he realizes these people will not stop until they catch her. Turning to his draconic companion, Ian asks for a massive favor to settle this. He gives the order to drive the pursuers back, authorizing lethal force if things get dicey. Longtail agrees without hesitation, treating the request like a simple favor between friends. The drake lunges into the fray with terrifying speed and power. Ian knows he did not want to resort to killing, but in this cutthroat world he has to adapt. The sheer mental strain of his magic hits him, leaving him reeling from the effort. He tries to brush it off, blaming his headache on overusing a specific taxing language. Kathy notices he is clearly pushing himself too hard and tries to get him to stop. She calls out his obvious physical collapse while the remaining hunters watch with intense, hungry eyes. An old-timer spots Ardu and immediately jumps to the wrong conclusion. He starts pestering them about whether they're actually dating or just acting like a couple. The group continues their travel, riding along in the back of a wagon. Ian gets a notification out of the blue, catching him completely off guard. Apparently his summoned drake just took out another human, racking up 11 kills now. He finds the automated report convenient, but wishes he could hide it from everyone nearby. The guy beside him notices his distraction and calls his name to snap him back. Longtail confirms he's busy clearing the area of anyone he spots lurking around. Ian thanks the drake for the assist, glad to have someone watching his back. The time for their parting has finally arrived, and it's a bittersweet goodbye. Since Longtail can't leave the mountain range, they have to go their separate ways. Both of them exchange a final thanks for the help they've given each other. Before leaving, Longtail drops a cryptic hint about something worth investigating. A feather appears, dangling a lead on the mysterious legend of the phoenix. The group arrives at Riverville ready to start their next mission. Ian mulls over the rumors of a phoenix, wondering if it is actually real. Longtail had mentioned a rare ice phoenix living in the northern mountains, so why not check it out? Everyone knows the fire-based bird, a creature that never truly disappears after death. But it turns out the legend is not limited to just that standard fire bird. There are other elemental variants out there, including ice, wind, and even rock. This rare monster is a shape-shifting beast with insane environmental adaptability, wondering if he can actually tame one as a summon. The kid gets interrupted by some locals rushing over. They invite him to meet the local lord, but he's worried about keeping Lucy's identity under wraps. It's safer if she stays low-key, so he decides to play along, keeping her close as they weigh their options. He tells the group they'll grab a room at an inn first, which somehow makes the locals think they're actually a couple. The misunderstanding leaves both of them completely flustered. And Lucy acts like she's exhausted just to lean into him. The old guys watching are clearly buying the act, getting a kick out of the pair supposedly dating. Someone else in the crowd catches their eye, but he plays it off as a convenient cover to avoid annoying people. Lucy asks why he's so polite to commoners, so he explains that he's just copying his master's style. She does not seem entirely convinced, so he pivots the conversation to his plan for meeting Count Katina. Since the Count is his uncle, he's betting on a warm welcome. Traveling to meet the Count, this duo is definitely keeping things professional. Doubts about the uncle start creeping in, but she insists he is the most trustworthy guy around. Pressing her for more, the lad wonders if there is really no one else she can rely on. Her glowing recommendation makes him think the Count might actually be a decent person. She points out that staying with family is better than some random stranger, especially since any other guy would probably be trying to trap her into a marriage proposal. Reminding him that their contract ends the moment they reach the Count, she finds his attitude pretty harsh. A cold reality check follows, with him bluntly noting there are plenty of other women in the world. That comment clearly hits a nerve, leaving her fuming as they walk. Storming off, she tells him to follow her lead toward the local inn. Stepping inside, they secure a place to stay for the next few nights. The traveler requests a room and asks to use the bathing facilities. Handing over a heavy pouch of coins, he assumes the payment is more than enough. The innkeeper confirms it is plenty and moves to get their room ready immediately. Then she drops a question about whether the young lady will be joining him for a bath. A hard no comes from the girl, who looks completely mortified by the suggestion. The guy is genuinely confused, asking if she thinks the water is going to get dirty. With her face burning, she wonders if she really has to explain the obvious to him. Still completely clueless, the hero just stares back in total confusion. He finally realizes the problem when he sees the medieval bath is just an open fire pit. The hero realizes he has left himself and his companion exposed in public. He decides to head inside alone to handle their business without drawing more attention. Relieved to finally be moving, she adjusts her cloak to keep a lower profile, but they are already being tracked by a group of shady guys in the tavern. He notices the unwanted interest and immediately clocks the danger. Tense, he snaps at her to keep that hood up and use her fake name. She quickly pulls her hood back over her head to hide her face. Frustrated by the constant staring, he guides her away from the prying eyes. The local thugs are not backing down though, and they clearly like what they see. They watch the pair exit, already plotting to follow them out. These guys are completely love-struck by her and will not let her just walk away. Dismissing him as just some weak escort, they decide the girl is easy prey. They agree to jump them both and make the girl their own. Since the targets are not sticking around, the group decides they have to strike now. The ringleader calls for the kidnapping to happen immediately. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the local lord is holding court. Baron Kautz warns his staff to do their work without causing any unnecessary trouble. A subordinate bows low, eager to please the noble and secure his own position. He hopes that sucking up to the Baron will finally earn him a spot inside the castle. Suddenly, an idea hits him. He could use the rumored Master Mage to gain the Baron's favor. A nervous subordinate kneels before the Baron, desperate to share some critical information. He claims it's a secret, but he just can't keep quiet out of pure respect. The Baron, clearly loving the flattery, tells him to get on with it. The man reveals he ran into a legendary mage during his recent travels. He starts acting out the guy's insane skills, claiming he's basically a one-man army. With a smug look, he says it's way too early for the Baron to be shocked. The big reveal lands. The famous mage is actually staying in their own town. The Baron loses his composure, realizing this is a total disaster in the making. He knows if that unpredictable mage throws a tantrum, the whole territory gets fried. A quick flashback shows the mage casually unleashing a dragon on a terrified crowd. The Baron breaks into a cold sweat, fearing the situation might get even worse, because the local area is currently crawling with the Holy Santiago Knights. These guys are essentially zealot monks who hunt monsters and demons for a living. They call themselves the protectors of humanity, but they're basically total fanatics. If those knights cross paths with a powerful mage, it's going to be carnage, especially if they run into the exact guy currently hiding in the town. Just the thought of that confrontation sends sparks flying through the Baron's mind. His eyes dart around in pure terror, realizing the scale of the incoming mess. He shouts for his commander, desperate to get a handle on this crisis. An aide steps forward, ready to follow orders and deal with the fallout. The noble finally clears the way for his guest to get a proper room. He immediately demands the Santiago Knights, hoping they'll be easier to handle than a mage. The order goes out to intercept the targets before things spiral out of control. Meanwhile, our travelers are just trying to grab a quiet meal at a local tavern. The innkeeper is struggling to keep up with the demands of the rowdy patrons. She's clearly overwhelmed and has not even had a moment to prep the bathwater yet. Our girl offers to take over the chores herself, apologizing for the extra trouble. The guy tells her to just head upstairs once she's finished with her food. She gets right back to her meal, totally unaware of the eyes on her. A shady guy in the shadows is watching her, clearly plotting something devious. She starts heading up the stairs, leaving the common area behind. Walking down the hallway, she thinks she's finally getting a bit of privacy, but someone reaches out and grabs her arm, cutting the walk short. A strange man stops her, asking if she's the companion of the guy who just left. She's caught off guard and demands to know who exactly this stranger is. He claims he's just an errand boy hired by her friend to help her out. Proof of the job is a gold coin, and he insists they head to the docks immediately. He explains the friend ran into some trouble while trying to take a bath. Before she can even process that, a group of armed thugs corners them in the tavern. The errand boy panics and urges her to move, telling her there's no time to waste. The duke sprints away, putting distance between themselves and the commotion. Stopping abruptly, she realizes something is off. Ian is still tending to the fire, completely unaware of the shift in the air. A cloaked figure suddenly looms over her, cutting off any chance of escape. A piercing scream echoes through the area, signaling that something has gone wrong. Hearing the cry, Ian snaps his head toward the sound, instantly on high alert. He calls out, realizing that something has happened to Lucy. Before he can react, a man swings a heavy club directly at him. Dodging the strike with ease, Ian shifts his footing to counter. With a swift movement, he takes the attacker down, leaving the guy incapacitated on the ground. Dismissing the threat, he realizes these guys are not the ones he was actually looking for. Other men scramble to find their target, shouting for everyone to move quickly. Stepping out from cover, Ian prepares to deal with the rest of this group. One of the thugs lunges at him, refusing to let the target slip away. Frustrated by the delay, Ian realizes he's lost track of the person he needed to find. Power crackles around the attacker, who seems just as confused by the sudden surge of energy. Ian sighs, admitting that his current strength makes controlled magic a real headache. He searches for a source of power that he can actually command. A mysterious, dark presence whispers to him, claiming now is the perfect time to play. Recognizing the voice, he realizes he's just made contact with the power of darkness. Reaching into the void, the kid pulls on the power of darkness itself, but his target is already losing it, completely rattled by the sudden drop in visibility. The poor guy is stumbling around in the pitch black, desperate to find an exit, while the mage makes it crystal clear that he's the only one who can see in his own shadow realm. It's not long before the local hoodlum is begging for his life. Though the protagonist is just annoyed that this nobody actually managed to call for backup, he's still got the guy pinned when a fresh threat rolls up on the scene, demanding to know exactly where the girl was taken. But the hostage is already busy crying about his vision returning, and he gets a swift kick to the head for not answering the question. Suddenly, a blade whistles through the air, catching the mage off guard as it slams into the wooden fence right behind him. A commanding voice cuts through the tension, telling the kid it's time to knock it off. The mage freezes, immediately sensing a heavy, oppressive presence radiating from this new arrival. A group of Holy Santiago Knights steps into the light, demanding to know if he's the one who summoned the shadow. Keeping his cool, the kid confirms he is indeed the mage responsible for the darkness. The old knight leading the squad just stares him down. And the protagonist immediately recognizes the guy's terrifying thirst for blood. Meanwhile, the sniveling thug is already crawling toward the knights, crying that the mage tried to kill him for no reason right before the kid finally speaks up to defend himself. The local guy is still clinging to the senior's leg, absolutely terrified of the kid standing right there. That senior is not fazed at all, just calmly dropping a single chilling, "I see." He follows up by claiming it all makes perfect sense. If you're a mage, that is. It's a cryptic comment that leaves everyone hanging right over a bubbling cooking pot. Our protagonist has no idea what the old man is rambling about, so he demands a real answer. The senior just shrugs it off, asking if that is not just how mages are expected to act. He keeps doubling down on this weird philosophy, calling them beings who do whatever they please. This hits the kid hard, visibly shaking him as the absurdity of the statement sinks in. Even the other guys in the group are starting to question what kind of logic the old man is using. He clearly is not buying the excuses, his grip tightening on his sword as he snaps at them to stop the bullshit. Our lead is losing his cool, shouting back that the other guy started the fight for no reason at all. The outburst leaves the entire camp in a heavy, awkward silence, with everyone just watching the standoff. Panic sets in as the kid realizes he just yelled at a guy who might decide to go full swordsman on him. But instead of fighting, the old man just bursts into a weirdly cheerful laugh, completely ignoring the tension. He takes a wild guess that the kid must be a high-level mage, purely based on his foul mouth. Apparently, common sense in this world means being rude is a sign of elite magical talent. The senior is not done yet, though, and immediately pivots to accusing the kid of using evil magic. He explains that obscuring the area in darkness is basically like hiding from the gods themselves. With his arms crossed, the guy declares that hiding in the shadows is a truly despicable act. The kid can only listen, left wondering if darkness is really considered evil just because it rejects the sun. Our mage is stuck dealing with these religious fanatics spouting nonsense about the gods. He takes a moment, clearing his throat to challenge their logic with a question. If the heavens truly only love the light, he asks, then why does night exist? The kid does not stop there, pointing out that darkness is just a natural law. His argument hits home, leaving the group of thugs completely stunned and speechless. They start whispering among themselves, clearly shaken by the logic he just dropped. One guy in particular is sweating, realizing the mage might actually be right. They try to twist the narrative to save face, calling it the will of the heavens. Watching these medieval guys scramble is honestly making the kid lose his mind. He ignores their rambling and demands to leave, citing his sister's kidnapping as the reason. The leader realizes the mage attacked the guy earlier because he's an accomplice to the kidnappers. The thugs cannot even deny it, their guilty reactions giving the whole game away. Their boss tells one of them to stay behind and keep watch over the guy. Then he turns to the mage, offering a fake apology for the inconvenience. This guy tries to play nice, offering to help out as a way to apologize. Meanwhile, the actual kidnappers are already making their move, drifting away on a boat. Our guy catches on fast, sprinting toward the docks with the group in tow. He points out the exact spot the witness described, confirming their escape route. The guys behind him are fuming, calling the kidnappers cowards for running away. But the mage knows the real problem. Traveling by boat after sunset is a suicide mission. The group decides to push through the darkness by boat, but Ian is clearly hesitant. Their leader demands they move out immediately, his confidence bordering on total recklessness. He rallies the men to pierce through the night, fully ignoring the obvious risks involved. These so-called holy knights are fired up, practically begging to join this suicide mission. Ian realizes these guys are actually knights, which is a surprisingly cool detail, but he still tries to warn them that taking a boat out right now is dangerous. They laugh off his concerns and force him to help secure the boat anyway. The old man is stunned when Ian offers to pull the boat in himself. Questions arise about how a shadow mage is suddenly casting water magic with such ease. Their leader notes that battlefield mages usually stick to one specialty, making this highly irregular. Doubts creep in, as someone at only the beginner level should not even be casting spells. But Ian ignores the skepticism and commands the river to rise up on cue. A massive surge of water obeys his call, leaving the group completely speechless. The river swells into a powerful wave, far beyond anything they have seen in combat. The surrounding soldiers cannot believe their eyes, realizing this magic is on another level. Even the guys in the boat are thrown off balance as the current shifts. Everyone is visibly rattled by the sudden, overwhelming display of magical force. The boat lurches violently under the impact of the unnatural torrent. Forced to keep walking, Ian is clearly annoyed by the demanding escort. Then out of nowhere, a girl tackles him in a frantic, tearful reunion. The reunion gets interrupted by an urgent demand to comfort the crying sister. A quick pat on the head acknowledges the rough times she has clearly been through. He pulls her into a brief embrace before the exhaustion really starts to hit. Drained of all his energy, he just wants to escape to the inn. A nice, quiet bath is all he has in mind for the night. But little did he know, a peaceful soak was absolutely not on the schedule. Panic erupts in the streets as riders come barreling through the town square. It's the eldest son of the local lord, accompanied by his personal knight. Thick smoke rolling over the inn signals that a real battle is breaking out. The knight realizes the rumors of trouble were actually true all along. He's already fed up with babysitting this sheltered, noble kid during a crisis. Stress is written all over his face as he tries to maintain his composure. Meanwhile, the hero is just trying to get some basic hygiene done. He's completely unbothered, insisting he's fine while soaking in his makeshift tub. The noble and his knight burst in, completely ruining the relaxation session. They catch him mid-bath, much to everyone's absolute shock and confusion. The young master is horrified to find someone bathing in such a place. Since imperial folks rarely bathe, the whole situation looks incredibly suspicious to them. A suspicious mess and a guy in a tub, something definitely does not add up. The noble decides to throw his weight around, demanding an immediate report on everything. The noble brat demands that the guy in the tub stop relaxing and explain himself. Ruta steps in to handle Lord Bernard, trying to de-escalate the situation right now. But the entitled heir is not having it and keeps pushing for an answer from the mage. Bernard explains that he's pestering the guy because he's a mage, clearly looking for a reaction. Ruta realizes exactly what this noble is trying to pull off with this stunt. The heir continues his disrespect, demanding the mage get out of the water to greet him. In this world, there is a twisted tradition called mage baiting to test a mage's power. If a mage stays calm under pressure, they're basically considered incompetent and weak by the elite. But a mage who loses their temper is seen as someone with real, raw, destructive potential. Our guy in the tub realizes this is exactly the trap Lucy warned him about earlier. He flatly refuses to play along with their petty game, shutting down the request immediately. The noble is stunned, completely unable to process that his demands are being ignored like this. He loses his mind, absolutely furious that a common mage would dare to defy a noble. The heir starts screaming, demanding to know why his authority is being challenged so openly. He orders his guard, Sir Hansen, to forcefully drag the fraud out of the bath. The guy in the tub watches the heir's tantrum, sarcastically noting that his acting is pretty good. Since they want a show, he decides it is finally time to give them one. His mana flares up, creating a massive pressure wave that sends a chill down their spines. The guard and the heir are suddenly hit with overwhelming power and have no idea what is happening. With a simple command, the mage unleashes his energy, letting the situation spiral out of control. The mage flexes his power, sending furniture flying and forcing the guards to back down. Their leader immediately folds, offering a desperate apology after witnessing such a display of force. Debris settles on the ground as the threat is neutralized without a single scratch. Relaxing in a bath, he figures a show of strength was enough to keep them off his back. But a sudden wave of regret hits him, making him spiral about whether he went too far. Fretting over the consequences, he wonders if his lord will just execute him for the outburst. The next day, he arrives at a grand manor after receiving a formal invitation. A host welcomes him inside, clearly eager to discuss the recent events. The man brings up the trouble his son caused while the kid tries to hide his embarrassment. Both sides trade apologies for the mess, trying to smooth things over with some tea. The conversation shifts to his companion, but he keeps her whereabouts vague. It turns out they have the girl under close watch, ensuring she stays out of sight. Noticing the shift in tone, he keeps his guard up while playing along. The host probes for more info, asking for the name of his master. Hearing it is Lady Aletti's, he realizes the kid is connected to the rising star of Drawled. He pivots, questioning why she is not heading toward the major duchies for the magic university. Things are getting tense, and the host starts fishing for the real reason behind his travel. The guy reveals that the Duchy of Palgar is actively targeting Roxlin, meaning a full-scale war is likely brewing between the territories, so he drops the final question, asking if the kid is planning to head south as well. Ian tells the man he is heading east to hunt for mysteries, and the noble offers him a parting gift as a sign of his gratitude. Surprised by the sudden generosity, our guy waits to see what is inside the box. A heavy chest sits between them, leaving him wondering what kind of treasure it holds. With a nod from the noble, he reaches out to reveal the contents, and the lid creaks open to show a relic waiting for its new owner. One look at the item inside leaves Ian completely stunned, because it is an ancient staff once wielded by a famous aeromancer. This is the Wind Walker, a legendary tool for any mage worth their salt. He grips the wood, feeling the weight and the hum of power, and the staff fits him perfectly, looking like it was made for his journey. Even if it looks like a standard starter item, he's pretty hyped about it. Appreciating the gesture and the unexpected upgrade to his gear, the noble explains it is just a small thank you for forgiving his son's behavior, and Ian accepts the gift graciously before heading back to his own quarters. But his peace is short-lived, interrupted by someone shouting his name, and he turns around, confused by the urgency. Finding a girl who immediately grabs his arm and tells him it is an emergency. Dragged along by the stranger, he has no idea what's going down until he is faced with a caged crow that claims they desperately need his help. Our mage realizes the caged bird is far from ordinary. A hunter caught it, but their companion intervened before dinner plans started. The girl thinks the meeting of a raven and a crow is total destiny. The bird just stares back while she keeps pushing the narrative. She's practically vibrating with excitement over this supposed fated connection. Ian just wants to settle this so they can move on. He reminds everyone who the actual mage is in this party. The guys do not care, they just want to eat their lunch. Suddenly the crow screams for help, and it's loud enough to stop everyone. Ian rushes over to the table to see what the hell is happening. He asks the bird what it is, and it just keeps begging for its life. The mage is losing his patience with the bird's incessant pleading. It seems the creature does not understand the local language, but that does not matter. Ian tells the bird to shut up so he can actually help. The bird does not listen, and the mage is reaching his limit. After one last demand for silence, he agrees to take the bird. The creature stops its noise and just locks eyes with him. Ian realizes the bird might not speak, but it definitely understands the situation. The party is stunned that the mage was actually chatting with the crow. With the bird in his care, his companion feels fully vindicated about her hunch. The group keeps joking around, but our guy is just trying to focus on the task at hand. After wrapping up the bird's wing with some fresh bandages, the recovery seems to be going well. Ian and his friend agree the injury should not be an issue for much longer. She wonders if he's actually going to hand the creature back to the hunters. Instead, he decides to keep the bird with them for a while despite the extra trouble. The little guy really seems to want to stick around, so he just sighs and accepts the situation. He plans to look after it until it's back to full health. Since it's staying, Lucy thinks it's only right they give the bird a proper name. She suggests calling it Obsidian because of those dark, striking eyes, but Ian is not so sure. The bird clearly loves the extra attention, but they decide on a shorter name instead. Ian officially dubs the bird Oberon, and he seems pretty pleased with the choice. The bird suddenly acts like it's royalty, as if it's finally getting the respect it deserves. Lucy shifts the conversation to their travel plans, suggesting they join a night order for protection. It's definitely safer than wandering around the world on their own. They imagine the meathead knights they'd be stuck with, but at least bandits wouldn't try anything. However, Ian points out that if those knights are not going their way, it's a non-starter. The elder interrupts to ask what has got them so worried. He warns them that traveling solo with a woman is just asking for trouble out here. He thinks he has a solution and proposes a deal to get them moving. They need help capturing a monster, and he wants our duo to sign on for the hunt. A manticore is the target, a beast notorious for its pure bloodlust. The conversation shifts, but the stakes are clear. That's the monster they need to handle. It's a killing machine that leaves nothing behind, a total nightmare fuel of a creature. Naturally, he's not thrilled about teaming up for this. The older guy clarifies they are not looking for combat support. They just want some extra hands on the job. He stays quiet, weighing the risks. Then he makes his move to leave. The older man stops him, insisting they talk it out. It turns out hunting is not actually the priority here. These guys represent a night order from the local church. The real issue is a previous manticore hunt. It seems the local priest stepped on some toes. They forced a mage to help, and now that mage is holding a grudge. A mage's word carries serious weight, way more than these knights. He realizes there is a real benefit to playing diplomat. Calming down the disgruntled mage means getting a full night escort, so he decides to take the deal and go together. Traveling with this night order is a total breeze for our mage. The group is full of genuinely nice people, but there is a catch. They are constantly trying to force their religious scriptures on him during camp. One of the knights keeps trying to rope him into a study session. He keeps offering up the holy texts like they are some kind of privilege, and the rest of the squad is just as eager to join in. Our protagonist is having none of it and shuts the whole idea down. He's just trying to enjoy his peace, but the recruitment never stops. A senior member tries one last time to sway him with a pitch. He claims that if the mage could hear the voice of God, he'd convert. That sparks an idea, because if he could actually talk to a deity, he might finally get answers about his reincarnation and that weird status window. So he changes his tune and asks if he can join the study session. They sit down together and start cracking open the holy books. The mage is barely paying attention, just waiting for something to happen. He ends up dozing off while the knight is still focused on the text. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in his head, praising his good attitude. He sleepily mumbles a thank you for the compliment. That confuses the hell out of the knight, who definitely did not say a word. Now the poor guy is panicking while the mage wonders who the hell he actually heard. Ian just realized that mysterious voice in his head definitely was not human, and whoever it is, they are clearly playing games with him, so he is rightfully confused. The poor guy is so on edge that he is practically jumping out of his own armor. He's seriously questioning his own existence at this point, wondering if he's even considered human. Then he just snaps, shouting into the void and demanding to know if he is talking to God. And the system does not even hesitate, dropping a cheeky probably right into his status window. Ian is absolutely reeling from the reveal, staring blankly while the weight of that answer hits him. He's spiraling, asking why the heck he was dragged into this world just to deal with this system. The guy is practically begging for an explanation, demanding the system answer him right now. But the divine presence just decides to bail, leaving him completely high and dry in the woods. His companions are staring at him like he's lost his mind because he's talking to thin air. Ian is just standing there in shock that his divine connection really just checked out. You can see the vein popping in his head as he realizes he has been ghosted by a literal god. He literally starts screaming at the sky, demanding his divine companion come back to finish the conversation. The rest of the campfire group is just watching this total meltdown, wondering what on earth is wrong with him. Desperate to fix this, Ian decides to grind like his life depends on it, burying his face in a book. He's absolutely obsessed with leveling up his knowledge just to force another chat with that shitty god. And would not you know it, he actually pulls it off and unlocks a brand new skill. The system even gives him a sarcastic, way to go message as a little victory lap. But the celebration is cut short because a fresh punishment from the system hits him immediately. The system keeps shoving these religious pings down his throat, demanding he worship some god. Our guy is clearly not feeling it, questioning if this is really the entity responsible. It feels like he's just a toy being dangled by a creator who gets a kick out of watching him struggle. Frustration is mounting, but he's basically stuck in this mess until further notice. Trying to talk back is off the table because his holy magic level is just way too pathetic. So he shifts his focus to the grind, hunting for mysteries and points to burn through that leveling gap. Upgrading his holy magic is the only path forward if he wants to actually get some answers. A few days later, some group crosses him and finds out exactly why you do not mess with a guy leveling up. The old swordsman in the party absolutely tears through their formation without breaking a sweat. A single swing clears the board and the opposition is left in the dirt. With the hostiles dealt with, the guy on the ground is completely out of the fight. The elder checks in on his mage, making sure the kid is not rattled by the sudden violence. Everything is technically fine, but the reality of their situation is still pretty grim. Since they just wiped out the entire enemy squad, the coast is clear for now. The elder confirms the kid is unhurt, showing he's clearly the veteran of this duo. Age has not slowed this guy down one bit, and he's still got plenty of fight left in him. It comes out that the old man was a legendary mercenary back in the day. He admits he made a massive name for himself, though he prefers a low profile these days. That's why he goes by the alias Elder, to stop every random goon from trying to challenge his past reputation. Our protagonist is left wondering just how big of a deal this guy really is. Our veteran adventurer flexes his win against the bandits while his soldiers cheer him on. The squad is fired up, but there is still plenty of work left to do. Ian and his mentor reach a fork in the road where their paths diverge. One way leads to the Count's castle while the other heads toward a dangerous forest. The older warrior points the way to the mage's hideout, telling his apprentice it is time. Rushing to stay on schedule, he urges the kid to pick up the pace. Lucy hesitates and asks them to hold on for a quick second. She insists they track down the mage before checking in with the local nobility. Ian wonders if she will actually be alright heading off by herself. She laughs it off, claiming she is no longer a child and knows the route. With a wave and a smile, she splits from the group to go her own way. The duo watches her walk off, both clearly worried about her safety. Ian knows he needs to finish his business fast so he can catch up. The veteran asks where she headed off to, but Ian plans to follow soon anyway. They keep moving toward their meeting with the mage, though the mood is tense. The older man checks if his apprentice is actually ready for this interaction. He explains that mages are temperamental and usually hold a grudge against the church. Ian is left confused, asking why they even need to deal with the church's problems. The old man gives a nervous, shifty look that says everything about their real motive. It turns out they are only doing it for the payout, which explains the fancy gear. The group is not worried about dying, even if they are stuck with a weirdo. Our lead has never actually hung out with a mage before today, and now they're tracking a strange green vapor through the woods. It's leading them straight toward a creepy little shack in the middle of nowhere. Inside, the place is littered with dead animals and swirling with toxic fumes. A botanist named Manny Campbell is busy brewing something nasty in his pot. The church sent these knights to recruit him for a manticore hunt. They are not exactly happy about being here or taking orders from a mage. Manny, however, is just annoyed that he is being interrupted. He tells them to quit whining and start acting helpful if they want his services. The The guy is clearly testing their resolve with that stomach-turning concoction. He laughs, demanding the knights finally show themselves and stop hiding. As it turns out, this herbologist is actually a pretty big deal. Word is he's a master of both plant manipulation and deadly toxins. That makes him the perfect asset for taking down a dangerous manticore. The party realizes this poison is exactly what they need to succeed, but the smell is so overpowering that the knights can barely breathe. Our mage recognizes that distinct toxic scent immediately. They finally approach the cabin door, ready to confront the eccentric master. The old man bursts out, cackling as he welcomes the warriors of Santiago. A veteran warrior named Manny Campbell realizes he's walked straight into a trap. The host is a creepy old witch who's clearly delighted he showed up. She presents a giant pot of soup as a special banquet for her guests. A pungent neon green mist rolls off the bowl, filling the room. The warriors start choking on the fumes, desperate to cover their mouths. The witch dismisses the concern, claiming the soup is made from her prized rare crops. She gives the men an out, telling them they can leave if they are not actually hungry. They are struggling to even breathe, much less think about eating anything. One of them is already dry heaving, completely defeated by the odor. The witch pauses, wondering if she might have overdone it with her secret ingredient. Meanwhile, a random guy is sitting at a nearby table, digging into the soup like it's a five-star meal. The witch and the warriors are stunned by this stranger devouring the toxic garlic dish. She leans in to check if he's alright, but he's perfectly fine. This kid is actually loving every single bite. The witch is completely thrown off because that reaction makes zero sense to her. He tells her the garlic is actually the best part. He pops another piece into his mouth without a second thought. Watching him eat it with such ease leaves the witch and the warriors speechless. She grabs his arm, demanding he stop right there before he finishes it all. As a master herbologist of 40 years, she admits she has never seen anyone as ridiculous as this kid. The old herbologist demands the kid's name right away. Ian Aretti's Raven drops his identity and she immediately clocks the connection. Realizing who he is, the woman goes stiff. The legendary fire sorcerer Aretti's clearly carries some serious weight around here. She tries to make amends for her earlier attitude with a peace offering. A spread of steak and ale hits the table as an apology. Ian admits the stew was good, but his mind is clearly elsewhere. The group confirms they are hunting a manticore together. She warns him that the beast is no joke. Previous attempts by other hunters to take it down ended in total slaughter. Ian is not rattled, but he turns the tables by asking if she has ever actually caught one. The veteran claims she's bagged a few back in her prime. She pivots back to him, curious about his own credentials. Since he is Aretti's apprentice, she assumes he is already a full-fledged mage. She suggests he should be out there helping the knights with that power. A mage's duty is a heavy topic that triggers some internal reflection. The pressure to act properly is a moment every mage must face eventually. Ian knows he does not really need to hunt the beast, but the social cost of refusing is too high. The mage gathering keeps a tight leash on how magic gets used in the world. If he ruins his reputation now, he will never be able to face his master or get help when it counts. Ian keeps his cool while weighing his options after that tense conversation. His companions are clearly out of the loop and just rolling with the situation. Deciding to stick with the group, he makes his move to join the mission. The team pushes deeper into the forest the next day, nerves on edge. A heavy, unnatural vibe hangs in the air as they march through the trees. His scout bird suddenly returns, signaling that it's finally tracked down the target. Ian gets the heads up that a dangerous manticore is lurking just ahead. When the elder asks if something is up, the kid points them in the right direction. The old man is genuinely impressed by Ian's unique scouting ability. It turns out he spent time teaching the bird to mimic human speech for recon. Suddenly, a wave of pure bloodlust washes over them, stopping everyone in their tracks. Ian checks in with the elder, wondering if he can actually handle this beast. He tosses out a wild idea about trying to reason with the monster instead. The kid is seriously considering if persuasion is an option here. That proposal leaves the elder visibly skeptical about the whole plan. He bluntly shuts it down, reminding the boy that manticores do not exactly hold conversation. The witch nearby is even more vocal, totally baffled by his logic. She makes it clear that such a plan is just a mystery to her. She adds a threat for good measure, promising to tattle to Aretti's if he tries it. Ian is left speechless, wondering why she's threatening to snitch instead of cheering him on. The knight spots the manticore lurking in the shadows and alerts everyone immediately. Ian turns to face the creature and realizes the situation is becoming dire. Glowing eyes pierce the darkness as the party realizes their target is right there. The beast looms over them, ready to strike again with a terrifying, cackling growl. That haunting laugh sends a cold shiver down the young mage's spine. With no time left to reapply his poison, he knows he is in serious trouble. Clenching his fist, he realizes he has no other choice but to fight. He lets out a defiant roar to steel himself against the oncoming threat. His allies stand ready, watching as the mage steps forward to confront the beast. The old witch behind him can barely believe the kid is actually going through with it. Silence falls over the clearing as the two powerhouses lock eyes. The manticore seems genuinely amused that a human would dare address it directly. Trying to maintain his composure, Ian introduces himself with a calm, polite tone. He drops the formalities and tells the monster to just scram. The creature responds by insulting him, leaving the mage completely stunned. It mocks his hesitation and tells him to stop acting so stiff. With a dark glint in its eye, the beast asks what he really wants. Ian stares back, cold and focused, and tells the monster to say it straight. He threatens to peel the skin off the beast's head if it keeps playing games. The monster erupts into maniacal laughter, scattering the birds as the tension finally snaps. The monster tries to recruit Ian by appealing to his honesty, offering him a cut of the human carnage and the spoils. Ian, however, is clearly not buying what this beast is selling. With promises of gold and women, the creature paints a grim picture, but Ian isn't interested in playing along with its sick demands. The monster just keeps cackling, fully expecting an easy score. It does not realize how much it's crossed the line yet. Ian has heard enough of this trash talk, so he shuts the conversation down with a very clear, very rude gesture. His allies are left scrambling, wondering what just happened. With the parley officially over, Ian prepares to take a stand. A massive threat looms overhead, ready to crush him. But the monster is about to find out it made a huge mistake. Ian realizes the beast is using the Imperial language, and he calls out to his companion to extend their power. A single leaf glows with intense magical energy, spiraling rapidly into a massive, tangled wall of thorny vines. The sudden display of power catches everyone completely off guard. A colossal structure of greenery erupts in front of them, leaving his partner stunned that he's already managed to take down the manticore. The group is left scrambling as the elder demands they stop standing around. He's dead set on prioritizing the hunt, snapping at them to handle their own business. The old man does not wait for a response and just takes off. Everyone else is forced to chase after him into the thick of the woods. They move fast, but the situation is clearly weighing on the kid's mind. The protagonist checks in with his master, clearly rattled by the turn of events. They eventually reach their destination, but the mood is heavy and solemn. There they find the person they were looking for, and it's not a pretty sight. The wounded warrior is barely hanging on, apologizing for failing the mission. Our lead just stares at him, processing the gravity of the moment. He tries to offer some comfort, telling them they all did their best. Looking at the carnage, the reality of this world finally sinks in for him. It's not just a game or a story anymore. This is his new brutal life. He reflects on the monsters and the constant struggle that now defines his reality. The kind of danger he used to only read about is now right in his face. Every bit of that history has become a cold, hard, and unforgiving fact. The protagonist steps up to the side of the fallen man. He kneels down, ready to do whatever he can to help. Recalling a lesson from their past, he brings up the old teachings they shared. He invokes the promise that if you believe with your heart, the heavens will open. A broken man takes his final breath, whispering a prayer in his last moments. Ian kneels by the dying fighter and calls on the heavens to intervene. The kid demands to know if the gods are actually watching this carnage. He points out that his biggest fan is bleeding out on the ground. A blinding light erupts as a voice claims the heaven he seeks is right here. Ian accepts the challenge and decides to give the impossible a real shot. Pure divine energy flares up, swallowing everything in a massive shimmering pulse. The guards look on, stunned as the air itself begins to hum with power. Glowing light flows from Ian's hands, surging directly into the wounded man. The kid watches in shock as his own hands glow with an unknown strength. A massive golden cathedral manifests in the air, calling out for Dietrich to awaken. The goddess descends from the light, floating down with an ethereal, glowing presence. The dying man stares up in disbelief, barely able to process seeing a deity. She touches down gracefully, offering a warm greeting to the man on his knees. Realizing where he is, the wounded warrior trembles, convinced he has reached the afterlife. The goddess smiles, telling him there is still a vital task left to complete. Confused, he repeats her words, questioning what burden he could possibly still hold. Her hand descends, a symbol of divine will spreading across the entire realm. She commands him to aid the weak and bring happiness to those in need. Finally, she seals the deal, tasking him to serve as an apostle for Ian. A blinding holy light marks the moment Ian's wish is finally granted. Dietrich's eyes snap open, pulling him back from the brink of death. The group realizes he is alive and immediately starts checking on his condition. Disoriented, the survivor tries to make sense of his surroundings after the brush with death. A voice calls out his name, breaking through his confusion. Ian stands there with a casual smile, asking how the afterlife treated him. The rescued man grabs Ian's staff in a panic, demanding answers about what is going on. Dietrich is convinced Ian saved him on direct orders from a higher power. Ian just sweat drops, clearly trying to downplay his own involvement. The goddess herself confirms that she lent Ian the power to perform the miracle. Dietrich presses for an explanation, still reeling from his near-death experience. A divine message echoes in his mind, reminding him that his mission is not over yet. Realization hits him hard, leaving him completely stunned by the revelation. In a total pivot, Dietrich drops to his knees to worship Ian as a divine apostle. The observing soldiers are skeptical, dismissing the whole goddess's apostle thing as a hallucination. Despite their doubts, they decide to keep a close watch on the pair for now. The commander finds it ridiculous that everyone is so full of energy after nearly dying. He brushes it off and rallies the troops to continue their hunt for the manticore. Ian suggests sending Oberon out to scout ahead, though he worries about the bird's safety. With a firm no, the scout bird takes flight anyway to start the mission. An old man pauses, genuinely confused by the sudden chaos erupting around him. While he remains oblivious, our protagonist knows exactly what kind of filth is lurking nearby. He identifies the target as something far worse than ordinary trash and prepares for a brawl. A massive shockwave tears through the town, signaling the arrival of a real threat. Panic explodes as a towering lion-like beast begins slaughtering the helpless villagers. People scramble for their lives, but the monster is faster than any of them. A desperate hand reaches out, trying to hold onto someone precious in the madness. The younger man cries out for his father, watching the nightmare unfold before him. Everything stops for a split second as the horrific truth sinks into his mind. The beast corners the father, looming over him like a predator playing with its food. It demands that they clear out immediately, showing a twisted sense of authority. Trembling, the son refuses to yield, brandishing a pitchfork against the overwhelming odds. The monster is clearly amused that a human can even speak its language. It cuts the conversation short with a brutal strike, forcing a sick ultimatum. The creature offers to spare the town if the kid just hands over his own father. Desperation turns into pure defiance as the son rejects the twisted bargain. Since the human will not play ball, the beast decides to handle things its own way. It lunges with lethal intent, ready to tear everything apart at once. The son pulls his father away just in time to dodge the killing blow. With no other options left, the monster unleashes a final, devastating strike. The monster slashes through the air, forcing its target to dodge. He keeps moving, refusing to give the beast a clean shot. A massive strike barely misses him, tearing up the ground instead. Nearby survivors realize who just arrived to save them. The commander commands his men to hold their ground for the final stand. Footsteps echo as the reinforcements move into position. This beast is not intimidated by a few extra soldiers. He mocks the humans for their weak attempt at resistance. An arrow pins his cheek and the mage standing nearby is not impressed. The kid does not buy the monster's act for a second. Infuriated, the beast snaps back at the mage. The mage just laughs, baiting him with pure sarcasm. The monster charges, eyes locked on his new target. Speed is everything here as they close the distance. A subtle smirk tells you the mage has a trick ready. The beast realizes too late that he's being played. The mage and his partner prepare to shut this fight down. Magic begins to surge as the incantation starts. Vines erupt from the earth, surrounding the beast instantly. He gets tangled in the growth, completely caught off guard. A veteran commander shouts the signal to initiate the final phase of their trap. The knights move into position, ready to bait the beast into the kill zone. A massive swing connects, pinning the manticore down right where they wanted it. The trapped creature roars, clearly pissed about falling for such a simple trick. It's time for Ian Meredith to step up and finish the job. He keeps his cool, locking eyes on the target with cold, calculated focus. Raising his staff, Ian commands the flames to ignite. Magic surges, his eyes glowing with the intensity of the incoming inferno. A massive pillar of fire erupts, engulfing the manticore in a blinding blaze. The smoke clears and the kid stands there, completely unfazed by the destruction. The villagers and knights gather around, showering their savior with praise. The old veteran watches Ian with a mix of awe and deep respect. Even his bird sidekick is teasing him, but Ian just wants the crowd to pipe down. He assumes they're intimidated by his raw power after that display. The commander approaches him, towering over the young mage. The knights bow in gratitude, acknowledging Ian for saving their lives today. He awkwardly tries to brush off the praise, clearly not used to the attention. The old man is not letting him off that easy, calling him out by name. Ian frantically insists he just followed orders, trying to deflect the credit. The commander can't help but marvel at how such a powerhouse can be so humble. Mage Ian is being scouted for his legendary potential, but he remains completely clueless. Heavy armored knights arrive at the scene, their presence signaling a formal invitation. They immediately identify the party responsible for taking down the manticore. Introducing themselves as castle guards, they request Ian's presence at the estate. Bit confused by the sudden attention, Ian agrees to head to the castle. Count Katina is waiting, eager to personally host the heroes who saved the day. The atmosphere is opulent as they are welcomed into the grand halls. A massive feast is laid out, serving as a reward for their divine-like intervention. The host is practically gushing with praise, clearly impressed by their heroic display. Ian stays humble, brushing off the compliments while sharing a drink with his companions. The castle guards look on, openly wishing their own ranks had such elite talent. The host promises to protect the mage's forest home from any interfering priests. Mention of a mysterious niece comes up, catching the young mage off guard. Ian is too busy devouring the high-quality meal to really pay attention to the small talk. His host is momentarily stunned by the lack of social grace but plays it off. Realizing he missed a beat, Ian finally looks up from his plate. He offers a quick apology, blaming the delicious food for his distracted state. The host shifts gears and presents a heavy, ornate chest as a special gift. Ian cracks it open and the contents start glowing with blinding intensity. It's a golden magic scroll, a top-tier treasure that leaves everyone speechless. A golden magic scroll activates the moment it is torn in half. Ian stares at the treasure, clearly impressed by the powerful artifact. The quality of the writing is top-tier and he can feel its immense value. The Count asks if he likes the gift he specially prepared for him. Ian thanks him for the generous present, but the Count waves it off. Bringing Lucy back safely was worth way more than any scroll. With a snap of his fingers, the Count makes his move. A woman in a very tall, eccentric hat suddenly appears. Ian barely keeps it together, stifling a laugh at the ridiculous headgear. He wonders where on earth such a bizarre hat even came from. The woman seems pretty nervous about the whole situation. She greets Ian and the two acknowledge it has been a while. Ian plays it cool with the old man, insisting she is not a lover. The Count cuts to the chase and says he has a proposal. He wants Ian to join the journey to avenge his niece. The Count desperately asks if he can lend them his strength. Ian finally realizes why he was given that golden scroll earlier. He figures he can just provide some magical support, same as before. If things go well, he might even double his rewards from both of them. Ian agrees to help, acting the part of the humble mage for the job. Ian agrees to tag along for the upcoming journey as they prepare to part ways. 3 days pass, and while Ian's uncle missed the send-off due to expedition business, the group gathers for final farewells at the Tarian territory, promising to visit again once their paths cross in the future. Though Ian notes that Count Katina's recent schemes have thinned the ranks of knights, he keeps his focus on the conversation as they share some parting words. Salvador offers an invitation to visit Trifer Island, promising to show him some interesting mysteries, and assures him that mentioning the name Salvador will guarantee a warm welcome. Ian pauses, wondering if that is actually the old man's real name. But Salvador drops the mask and reveals his true identity as a member of the Orcus family. The realization hits hard, leaving his companion completely stunned. She can barely process that she's standing in front of Salvador of the legendary White Wolves. Ian, however, has not the slightest clue who that is, which only makes her panic more. The White Wolves were an elite mercenary group that served the former emperor directly, and their leader was personally granted the title of Sword Master for his service. Now that the secret is out, she can't believe they've been traveling with a literal legend. Salvador just gives a sheepish grin while the weight of his title sinks in, confirming that yes, he really is the famous Swordmaster himself. Ian stares blankly at the reveal, showing absolutely zero interest in the fame, leaving his companion to freak out alone while he treats the legendary hero like any other guy. The old man laughs off a question about the Sword Master's reputation. Soldiers lose their minds the second they realize who he actually is, deciding it is better to just keep his mouth shut for now. He wraps things up and tells them to send his regards to Aredes. The group is genuinely grateful for all the help they received. They beg him to keep in touch, though he is clearly over the drama. Ian finally makes his move to wrap up their final meeting. A firm handshake seals the deal between the two of them. Plans are set to head toward Trifer Island once everything else settles down. The old guy is pleased that their paths will likely cross again. With the farewells finished, the focus shifts to the unfolding crisis. Soldiers stand at attention as the military situation reaches a boiling point. A high-ranking officer arrives and is immediately cornered by his niece. She is desperate for justice after the murder of her mother. The commander, Graham, keeps his cool while facing her accusations. Behind the scenes, the mastermind behind the coup watches the chaos unfold. He's using a forced marriage to snatch up the entire barony. Graham is clearly calculating every move in this political chess game. Back in the shadows, Lucy plans to confront the situation head-on. The troops roar for the Count as they prepare to take down the usurper. A military leader rallies his troops to march against the usurper. Night falls over the camp as soldiers settle in for the evening. A massive pot of water bubbles away over a roaring campfire. The mage Ian catches everyone's attention while boiling his personal set of spoons. Curious soldiers gather around, wondering if he plans to eat the silverware. Rumors spread through the ranks that the mage is making some strange spoon soup. Ian clarifies he's simply sterilizing his utensils to keep things clean. He refuses to explain the concept further, leaving the soldiers completely baffled. The troops are left scratching their heads over what could possibly be a mystery. One soldier tentatively approaches the mage at the fire, seeking a small favor. They offer up some fresh meat, asking if he can boil that in the pot too. Ian snaps, reminding them once again that he's not actually cooking soup. Life in the camp continues, but the mage definitely has some explaining to do. Later on, a companion brings up the reward Ian had previously promised her. She demands her prize, forcing him to finally address his outstanding debt. Realizing he totally forgot, Ian reaches out to make things right with her. Gold is off the table since she has plenty, so he searches for a better gift. He presents a legendary item, hoping it will be the perfect prize for her. The magic sword Anorish is revealed, a historic relic gifted by the ancient fairies. It comes with a romantic fairy tale attached, leaving his companion completely starstruck. Ardu is debating why a family with a legendary magic sword is still just a barony. Apparently the sword is hundreds of years old and buried in the first baron's grave, which means the only way to get it is by literally grave robbing the founder. The absurdity of the situation hits them hard as they sit by their campfire. It is a dark plan, but they seem pretty set on digging up that ancient plot. He cannot get over the lack of morals in this world's history, finding the whole thing ridiculous. Calling an ancestor's tomb a time capsule is definitely one way to look at it. Still, that blade is insanely valuable and could change everything for their struggling family. He pushes the point, arguing it is better used as a weapon than a dusty trophy. Lucy finally admits that, thanks to him, she has earned the right to fight. She is genuinely grateful and decides to hand over that precious item as a gift. Her sudden generosity catches him completely off guard, leaving him totally stunned. Before he can even process the offer, she takes off running, leaving him alone. He realizes he might have pushed her a little too far with his line of questioning. Suddenly, a mage steps up, cutting through the silence and making his presence known. This new arrival claims to be an envoy with a favor to ask on behalf of the Count. Meanwhile, back at the village, a tense standoff is already unfolding under the moonlight. Locals are threatening a group of armed soldiers, telling them to get lost or face the consequences. The soldiers do not back down, demanding 3 chickens in exchange for leaving the town in peace. They claim they need the food to keep their strength up for an upcoming battle, but the villagers are not buying it. The soldiers panic as a familiar bird spots them from the branches above. They realize this is the Master Mage's pet and it definitely recognizes them. The crows start squawking about the master arriving, which is the last thing they wanted. When they realize the bird is actually talking, their confidence completely evaporates. Then a commanding voice stops them dead in their tracks before they can run. The soldiers freeze, knowing exactly who just walked up behind them. Ian steps into the light, demanding to know what these guys think they are doing. He's come to meet with an ally, stepping into a private tent to talk. The noble he's visiting has a serious request and needs a favor from him. It's clear the guy is struggling to get the words out, so Ian waits. The request is simple but dangerous. He needs to stop the local mercenaries' misdeeds. Ian is skeptical and asks why the local knights cannot handle their own business. The noble explains that the knights are just looking the other way to protect their comrades. Apparently, this corruption is being ignored just to keep the mercenaries' morale high. The noble admits he could handle a little looting, but this is his niece's territory. Ian takes the job, promising he'll handle it and give them a stern warning. He tracks down the troublemakers and he is not in a mood to play games. The soldiers are terrified when they see the master mage standing there. He calls them out for raiding private houses like common street thieves. They immediately beg for their lives, promising to reflect on their pathetic actions. Things shifted once the mercenaries were dealt with. They became so terrified of capture that they stopped daring to step outside. Hiding away meant certain death for them, so they just stayed put. The Count and Lucy were thrilled to hear that news, but a new complication arose. One of the commanders reported directly to the Count. He claimed they were facing a serious problem. The unexpected issue centered on the army itself. Their own forces were no longer seen as a threat by the usurpers. Despite having 400 men, the opposition was not worried. It turned out the army was completely harmless. If they had actually looted the territory, the locals would have rioted. Graham was holding the Tarian territory, so they could not just pillage it. Their peaceful march was meant to keep the peace and win over the people. This restraint bought Graham the time he needed to gather his strength. Because the troops could not act as they pleased, their morale plummeted. The situation had become truly bizarre for everyone involved. A soldier asked the Count if they could finally start looting. The Count turned to the Mage, asking for a plan to fix this. She did not have an immediate answer to give him. The Mage simply considered the situation, contemplating what to do next. Ian is deep in thought, clearly weighing his next big move. His allies are already hyping him up, waiting for the reveal. The squad arrives, but the local guards are not exactly rolling out the red carpet. They think Ian is way too arrogant for his own good. Out in the Tarian territory, something is definitely off. The local guy is losing his mind over a noisy crow. Then the Mage just drops in and the guy is absolutely terrified. Ian is not messing around, immediately questioning the owner of this field. Things escalate fast when the guard realizes who he's dealing with. The realization hits the local guy like a truck. He instantly grovels, realizing he messed with the wrong mage. Ian just sighs, complaining that the land itself is already ruined. He slams his staff down, channeling some serious power into the ground. Pure evil energy pulses through the field and the guy is paralyzed. It turns out the original Baron's soul is absolutely furious about his stolen land. The guy is sobbing now, completely clueless about how to fix this mess. Ian demands silence before dropping the bombshell. He declares that Lucy Tarian taking the throne is the only way to settle this grudge. Just like that, the mage chases off after another ominous energy signature. The usurper is left behind, realizing his entire territory is falling to ruin. Ian's rumors are working as the townsfolk start turning their backs on the usurper. Desperate to escape the impending doom, the people are now throwing their support behind Lucy, and their public rejection of the current leadership is getting messy. This chaos has been a massive morale boost for the Count's army. The soldiers watch the scene unfold, clearly unsettled by the shifting tide. The tension finally reaches the Count himself, who's forced to address the issue. His knights are making it clear they will not fight for a lost cause. They're pinning the blame on Ian, claiming his talk of a curse is ruining their reputation. The Count is spiraling, convinced that staying near a mage will destroy his honor. Ian tries to reason with them, pointing out that a curse is just a convenient lie. But the soldiers are not having it, openly declaring they cannot trust anything a mage says. Ian realizes he's trapped in a lose-lose situation where his words are automatically dismissed. He sighs at the absurdity of the whole setup. The knights are the ones who actually matter on the battlefield, after all. The Count knows it too, fully aware that he cannot win a war without them. With no other options, Ian is forced to consider playing along with their demands. The Count tries to downplay the conflict, acting like everything is under control. Ian calls their bluff, offering to leave if his presence is truly such a problem. That reality check hits the knights hard, leaving them visibly nervous. But Ian is not letting them off the hook, warning them not to come crawling back for help later. Lucy rushes over to catch Ian before he can head out, looking desperate for a moment. The guy pauses and turns around, offering a sincere apology for how things played out. She explains that the knights were just looking for trouble, and even the Lord was too caught off guard to step in. It's clear that the situation left her feeling completely helpless and embarrassed by the whole ordeal. Ian just smiles back, letting her know he really does not hold any grudges against her. Hearing that, a wave of relief washes over her, as if a massive weight just lifted off her shoulders. He insists he is not mad, but she is still clearly struggling to process that he's actually being this chill. The guy figures leaving the battlefield is not that deep, especially since he's not interested in finding any mysteries among the dead. But Lucy points out he's throwing away a major opportunity to earn merits and prestige. Ian just reaches out and gives her a reassuring pat on the head, effectively cutting the tension. He tells her he does not care about merits as long as he gets that promised magic sword. She completely loses it, blushing bright red while her brain essentially short-circuits from the contact. In her flustered state, she blurts out that she'll get him the sword, even offering up her territory and marriage if that's not enough. Ian immediately shuts that down with a hard no thanks, completely uninterested in her impulsive proposal. A few days pass and a massive cavalry unit is already on the march toward their next objective. The sheer scale of the incoming enemy force becomes clear, numbering around 400 soldiers. A fellow commander checks in on the leader, making sure he is not getting cold feet before the clash. Graham of the single-edged sword just flashes a confident, almost arrogant grin in response. His eyes burn with intensity, clearly relishing the chance to engage in this upcoming slaughter. He takes a moment to seethe over Lucy Terrian, furious that she dare side with the Count against him. A massive war is brewing and the Count is already claiming the girl as his prize. He's feeling confident because he's backed by the legendary Black Knight of the East. With that kind of firepower, victory seems like a total lock. The enemy forces are finally in sight, but he's not sweating the numbers at all. It doesn't matter if they're facing hundreds or thousands of soldiers. Anyone daring to draw a sword against his territory is going down. The charge begins and the battlefield turns into absolute chaos. Steel clashes instantly as the front lines collide with lethal force. Watching from the sidelines, our group observes the carnage unfolding. The military advantage is clear and it looks like they have the upper hand. Everything is going according to plan and the win seems inevitable. But then something catches his eye that stops him cold. That lone knight is tearing through his ranks with terrifying efficiency. He quickly realizes the attacker is actually a Black Knight from the Eastern Empire. There is no mistaking that armor, which belongs to a region famous for its brutal winters. A foreign powerhouse should not be here, and the realization hits him hard. The knight does not hesitate, slicing through another soldier like he is nothing. It's a one-man slaughterhouse cutting a path directly through the lines. Something is definitely wrong here, and the situation is spiraling out of control. While the flanks are holding their ground, the center is buckling and retreating. The kid realizes the battle is turning into a total disaster. If the center line breaks, the whole formation will collapse instantly. It is basically a death sentence for everyone left behind. The Count and his command team are witnessing the front line fall apart. Once the soldiers retreat, the enemy will ignore them to target the Count. Furious at the incompetence, the Count starts barking desperate orders. He demands Sir Dickard charge the front to kill the enemy's Black Knight. The kid is shocked to hear Dickard's name getting called out. Dickard was the only one who showed him basic human decency. He remembers how the knight acted with genuine honor during their time together. Sending him into that meat grinder is a guaranteed suicide mission. Despite the danger, the knight grips his sword ready to fulfill his duty. Dickard accepts the order without a moment of hesitation. The kid tries to stop him from throwing his life away. Dickard remains firm, insisting he has to honor his knight's oath. Seeing the Black Knight tear through soldiers, the kid knows this is hopeless. He shouts that they should just retreat while they still have the chance. The knight refuses to break his contract with the Count. From a modern viewpoint, the kid sees this as nothing but senseless waste. He screams that this is not strategy, it is just feeding men into a slaughter. Ian knows exactly how doomed the situation is, yet he's still heading straight into it. It's like this world is rigged to constantly sacrifice the good guys for nothing. The local brass calls for him, but Ian realizes something is seriously wrong here. That knight is supposed to be holding the center line, so why is he here? The coward openly admits they've lost and is already planning his escape with the Count. Ian can't believe the nerve of this guy, basically admitting to folding under pressure. Orders come down to escort the high-ranking nobles away from the front lines immediately. But Sir Dickard is not running, he is stepping up to buy everyone else some precious time. With a shout to follow him, he charges off to hold the line alone. Watching the command group retreat, Ian wonders if this is really the right play. Dickard is the only one actually showing any honor while the rest act like total scumbags. It's messed up that he's being left to die for a war started by absolute fools. Lucy grabs onto Ian, panicking as she demands to know what he thinks he is doing. He tells her the Count already made the call to retreat and she needs to move. Before she can stop him, Ian jumps onto his horse and takes off toward the danger. He yells for her to get out of there with the others while he makes his move. Lucy is stunned, but she makes a split-second decision to stay with Dickard instead. Ian calls back one final goodbye, hoping they'll both make it out alive. She reaches out, desperately trying to hold him back before it's too late. But Ian is already gone, galloping full speed toward the battlefield to settle the score. Ian breaks away from the group to confront their pursuers head-on. The commander calls out, confused by the sudden change in plan. But the kid insists the commander focus on protecting the Count instead. He assures everyone that as a mage, he can handle himself just fine. Something in his expression makes the veteran soldier pause and reconsider. The guy realizes this kid is not just talking big to show off. Feeling a bit relieved, he decides to trust his judgment for now. The enemy squad wastes no time and orders a full pursuit. With the coast clear, the commander redirects his focus to the main mission. Ian throws one last warning to be careful as he rides off. He gallops toward the dense woods to draw the soldiers away. Time to set the trap, so he readies a quick spell. A magical strike hits the mark and signals the start of the diversion. His pet crow starts panicking, but Ian tells it to zip it. The plan is to lead these guys deep into the forest cover. The pursuers fall for the bait and charge right after him. The deeper they go, the darker the woods become. The soldiers scan the shadows, sensing something is definitely off. Suddenly, they spot a glowing light coming from further ahead. Ian prepares to trigger the trap, chanting the activation spell. The guards are completely caught off guard by Ian's strange, muttered chant. He taps his fingers, triggering the trap he's been setting up. A massive burst of magical energy detonates right in their path. Panic erupts as the soldiers are thrown into total chaos by the blast. While they scramble, Ian makes his clean getaway on horseback. Checking the perimeter, he's relieved to have thinned out the pursuing forces. His focus shifts to whether his contact, Sir Decade, reached the Count safely. But a hidden knight is already tracking his movements through the woods. Staying low and out of sight, the pursuer closes the distance. Meanwhile, a larger group of soldiers suddenly surrounds the target party. The Count's men realize they've been intercepted and are now completely boxed in. Their commander screams for them to open fire on the intruders. Before they can even draw, a flurry of projectiles cuts them down. The commander takes a direct hit, his armor failing to stop the blow. He He tumbles off his horse as his mount bolts in sheer terror. The ambush is swift and brutal, leaving the survivors stranded in the dirt. With the immediate threat neutralized, the mysterious attacker steps into the light. A clean strike finishes the job as the remaining forces are overwhelmed. Everything happens in a blur, leaving the Count's guards scrambling to defend. The commander barely has time to react before the final blow lands. A brutal ambush turns deadly as the Count gets taken out. The noblewoman is left paralyzed by the sudden turn of events. Her captor demands a quick surrender while aiming his weapon. But then a massive warrior lunges into the fray. He charges forward to intercept the enemy soldiers immediately. The captor can barely process the threat, calling out in shock. A single, precise strike cuts through the distance, and the remaining soldiers scramble as their target starts to fall. Lucy desperately tries to reach the Count as he collapses. The life drains away while she holds him in the mud. Realizing the Count is dead, the lead soldier curses their luck because the captain specifically ordered them to bring him back alive. Since the main objective is gone, they decide to pivot. Capturing the woman is their only remaining consolation prize now. The soldiers close in on Lucy to finish the job, but a sudden defensive strike forces them to back off. The attacker lands a direct hit on the lead soldier's chest, leaving the rest of the unit stunned among the bodies. Lucy is terrified of being sold off to the enemy, and she cries out in desperation, praying for someone to save her. A mysterious darkness suddenly descends, trapping the girl in total isolation. Knights nearby are completely blinded by the surge, unable to see a thing. Left vulnerable and scanning for threats, she braces for the worst. A hand suddenly reaches out to grab her, pulling her close. It's a rescue, and in one swift motion, she's pulled onto a horse. Relief washes over her as she realizes she's being carried away. They gallop through the woods, escaping the suffocating cloud of magic. Her savior looks back, clearly on edge and focused on their escape. Lucy finally catches her breath, realizing who exactly saved her. Pushing the horse hard, the boy demands to know the Count's location. She drops the grim news that the man has passed away. The revelation hits him hard, leaving him momentarily stunned and silent. Regaining his composure, he checks to see if she's actually injured. Lucy confirms she's fine but immediately pivots to the bigger situation. He explains that everything went sideways despite his initial plans. Mentioning Sir Decade triggers a shift in her demeanor, eyes widening. He pivots their strategy, insisting they need to reach the river now. Escaping the pursuing Black Knight is their only priority right now. Hearing the name makes Lucy recoil, realizing the danger is not over. The dreaded Black Knight emerges from the shadows, closing the distance fast. A horse splashes through the water, carrying two people in a desperate flight. They are not alone, as a heavily armed rider blocks their path forward. Getting caught right now means total failure for their mission. The armored pursuer cuts the pleasantries and demands they hand over the Terrian immediately. Tensions rise as the dude on the horse realizes their options are running thin. The guy calls out the knight's employer, labeling him a total scumbag. That clearly does not bother the knight, who could not care less about his boss's reputation. His companion is not having it, shouting that the guy killed her parents and stole her land. The knight just scoffs at the sob story, reminding them he's just here for the paycheck. He draws a hard line in the sand, closing the discussion. With a final warning issued, he readies his blade for the confrontation. She stays silent, realizing words will not get them out of this. The horse turns, choosing a different direction to dodge the threat. He makes a split-second decision and triggers a magical surge. Their mount's eyes flare with red light as the power kicks in. A sudden burst of speed leaves the knight scrambling to react. The pursuit forces him to drop to a defensive knee just to keep up. He's left confused and frustrated, wondering what kind of trick they just pulled. Pushing their luck, he shouts out a command to head upstream. The gap between them widens, leaving the knight watching them disappear into the current. Mysterious knight suddenly appears, causing our duo to stop in their tracks. The armored figure crashes through the brush, closing the distance between them. But the knight collapses, completely motionless as the dust settles. Ian cautiously approaches the fallen soldier, sword held ready for a potential trap. His companion whispers a name, recognizing the fallen warrior immediately. Ian stares down at the body, wondering if the threat is already neutralized. A moment of tense silence passes while he evaluates the situation. The armor looks way too good to leave behind, and Ian starts getting greedy. He hesitates, paranoid that this could still be a lethal ambush. Logic takes a backseat to loot, and he decides to claim the gear regardless. The helmet comes off, revealing the face hidden underneath all that steel. Both Ian and the girl are stunned, completely caught off guard by the reveal. The unconscious knight is actually a woman, and clearly not who they expected. Later that night, the fire crackles as they set up a makeshift camp. The blonde knight remains tied to a tree, completely at their mercy. Ian wakes her up, ready to grill her for information. They sit by the fire, the captured woman's discarded armor piled nearby. She wakes up to find her gear missing, and she is absolutely furious. Ian coolly admits he could not trust her, so he stripped her of her weapons. Mortified, the knight cannot believe she's being held captive in such a vulnerable state. Lucy is straight up roasting the captive knight for her secret hobby. She finds the whole cross-dressing situation hilarious, but the knight is clearly not amused. A quick check-in shows the guy is just watching the sparks fly between them. Apparently, cross-dressing is a huge taboo in this world, which is news to our hero. He imagines the knight in a maid outfit because why not? Lucy plans to leak the rumor just to watch the chaos unfold. The knight desperately tries to salvage whatever shred of dignity she has left, but Lucy just mocks her for even talking about honor after being caught. That dig hits a nerve and the knight is ready to snap. Things get heated, so our guy steps in to play the mediator. He grabs their hands to force a truce. The sudden contact leaves the knight completely stunned. He tells her to just take 5 and cool down. Walking away, he leaves her to sit and process the whole exchange. He's totally unfazed by the awkwardness he just left behind. Back at the campsite, he dismisses the entire argument as a total non-issue. The knight is still reeling, questioning his faith in the church. He casually confirms he's a believer, leaving her even more confused. It does not make any sense to her how he can be religious and this chill about cross-dressing. He doubles down, insisting it is no big deal, while she just needs to know why on earth anyone would do that. When the conversation shifts to cat ears and cosplay, the captive just wants to know what is going on. He brushes off the awkwardness of getting caught cross-dressing, acting like it's no big deal at all. But the lady tied to the tree is not having any of it, staying completely silent. She finally breaks the tension, calling him an incredibly skilled but weirdly eccentric mage. And after that weirdly specific jab, she has a demand. She expects to be treated like a knight, starting with getting these ropes off her hands. To seal the deal, she even promises on her honor that she will not attack him. He's not convinced yet, especially since she has not even told him who she actually is. And quite frankly, he does not see why he should trust someone named Varenka. The sudden mention of her name catches him off guard, leaving him completely speechless. Because the name she just dropped is Varenka of House Metz.